Breaking news. The Prime Minister, we are being told in the last few moments, has arrived back in Downing Street. We know he's been convalescing in Chequers following his brush with coronavirus. He left hospital 2 weeks ago. We know he's due back at work on Monday, but he has now arrived back in Downing Street. Before any further ado, let's bring in our chief political correspondent, John Craig, who's in Westminster for us. This news breaking in the last few moments, John.
Just happened a couple of minutes ago, yes. I think the Prime Minister would probably argue it was a bit more than a brush with coronavirus. He was in hospital for a week, and 3 of those 7 nights he was in intensive care. And it's exactly 2 weeks since he left hospital on Easter Sunday. He came back from St Thomas's Hospital, then went into Number 10, recorded a video in which he thanked NHS staff for saving his life. So clearly it was very serious illness. He spent the last 2 weeks at Chequers. But we learned yesterday that he was due to come back to work tomorrow. And he has taken the short drive from Buckinghamshire to Downing Street, just arrived by the back entrance. No pictures of him getting out of the car by the famous black front door. But he's back in Downing Street, just arrived. Now, Number 10, of course, have told us that he is raring to go. He's going to get back to his usual schedule. We understand that over the course of the next 24 hours, he's going to be having a series probably of one-to-one meetings with various cabinet ministers about the progress their departments are making in tackling coronavirus, starting almost certainly with Matt Hancock, the Health Secretary. This evening, he's likely to be talking to his closest aides prior to those meetings with ministers. We may see some ministers going into Number 10 this evening, although the PM may be ordered by his doctors to get an early night tonight and start their big meetings tomorrow. So, top of the in tray, this debate raging about when and whether and how to ease the lockdown. Also, he'll want to talk to Mr. Hancock about testing and the Health Secretary's ambitious pledge, which some doubt can be achieved, of 100,000 coronavirus tests a day by the end of April, which is Thursday, just a few days away now. But there is this huge debate, as we've heard from ministers like Dominic Raab on Sky News today, George Eustice at the news conference this evening about the lockdown. Today, Tory donors have joined the calls for easing of the lockdown, and yet some scientists have said could be as many as 100,000 deaths if it's relaxed too soon. So that is the acute dilemma facing the Prime Minister, back in Downing Street, back at work officially tomorrow, and headlong into a big agenda. It's possible we may well see him at the news conference tomorrow at 5 o'clock. George Eustice, the Environment Secretary, did say a couple of hours ago we would be seeing him this week.
Yeah, you say it is an acute dilemma, and of course that's exactly what it is, trying to work out what the exit strategy is to all of this. The government at the moment saying no change to the lockdown, but have there been any hints at all, John, about what potential tweaks could be coming in the next few weeks?
Well, we've learned this weekend that on Friday, the PM had a big meeting, 3 hours by all accounts, with Mr Raab, his stand-in for the past fortnight, and crucially Rishi Sunak, the Chancellor, at Chequers. They were joined by a conference call, video link by the Cabinet Secretary, Dominic Cummings, and possibly a few other aides as well, to discuss where the government is on this. Now, I'm told that Mr Sunak outlined some of the measures being taken in other countries, like, for example, allowing more shops to open, changing employees' working patterns, staggering them so more people can get back to work without breaching the social distancing guidelines. The big debate, of course, that is affecting so many families as well as the politicians, the reopening of schools. A lot of opinions on that, for and against. Other issues, Tory MPs have today been talking about anomalies in the current rules. Garden centres, calls for garden centres to reopen, and calls for markets and so on to reopen, as well as smaller shops. Now, Mr Raab talked about a phase 2 today. He also talked about a new normal, a phrase also used by Nicola Sturgeon, the Scotland's First Minister. Mr Eustace talks about the next stage. So clearly ministers are discussing the next stage, phase 2, whatever you like to call it. There is talk that the slogan will change: stay at home, protect the NHS, save lives. A different slogan perhaps, as there is a change, even if it's only a nuanced one, a slight tweaking of the rules in the next phase. So the next week or so is crucial because there have been claims that no effective decisions have been taken in the Prime Minister's absence. Mr Raab really has been doing little more than chairing meetings and, of course, appearing at the news conferences. But, of course, the number 10 have already talked about the